I recently platted the most recent Sword Art Online game to recomplete the Platinum Collection for the whole series, so I figured, why not take a trip down memory lane and recount all the hardest trophies that took many, many hours. Doesn't that sound like fun? For real though, hardest might be the wrong word for this. Most time consuming probably would be a better title, but Papa YouTube doesn't like that as much. Speaking of Papa YouTube, subscribe for more trophy and achievement videos. Apparently the button glows now if you say like and subscribe, like a real YouTuber does. With that said though, let's get to the trophies, starting with... The first SAO game is probably one of my favourites, as weird as that may sound. It's also the only one that I've platted twice, with both the Vita and PS4 versions. Also, fun fact, look, there's me, number 2, not bad. Getting right back on track, there are a few difficult trophies in this game, but the one I've decided on is High Ranking Tester, which needs you to do most of the implement list. The number I saw online was 100 of them, but I can't verify that for myself, but I'm going to assume that's right, people probably figured it out. The reason I went with this one as opposed to, say, the one for defeating a load of HNMs is because for that one, you can just defeat the same boss over and over 100 times. It'll take time, but there's nothing stopping you if you can defeat it once. Another 99 times is obviously doable. For the implements though, the tasks you need to do are much more varied, such as blocking a certain amount of hits or using a certain number of skills, so it's possible you could get halfway through and just get stuck and not know what to do. The fact that it also doesn't tell you how many you need to get in the game is also really unhelpful. This game actually does that with a lot of trophies, and it's unhelpful there as well. I remember running around for ages trying to do all the implements on the Vita version, and it was the first thing I thought of as soon as the PS4 version was announced. It was burned into my brain, and I was not looking forward to it. To be honest though, pretty much all the endgame hollow area related trophies are hard, so it was really a difficult choice picking just one for this list. Now, Lost Song is considerably different than every other SAO game when it comes to trophies, mostly because this game is really easy to platinum, while all the others take way over 100 hours. As such, I had a really hard time picking a hardest trophy because none of them are that difficult really. In the end, I decided on Skill Maniac, which requires you to learn every single skill for one character. In essence, what this requires you to do is reach level 400 with both your character level and all 3 weapons that the character can use. Honestly, this doesn't even take that long and could probably actually be done before beating the main story, but still, as I said, all of them are really easy. I had to pick something. An easy way of getting this one is to set your AI up to fight correctly with the right weapons and whatnot, and then just go stand in a batch of enemies and just leave the game on and go and do something else. Yeah, this game's not very hard. Is this the grindiest game? I think it's between this or the most recent one. There's a lot of grindy trophies in this game, and as such I had quite a selection to pick from, such as maxing out all the party member affinities, which I remember taking bloomin' ages in this game, or also unlocking all the skills, could've gone with that. In the end though, I went for the Blade Master trophy, which requires you to max out a sword skill. How do you max out a sword skill, I hear you ask? Well, that's quite easy, you just have to use it 10,000 times. Now, the only good thing about this trophy is you don't actually have to hit anything. I have vivid memories of just standing in the first area and just chaining one skill over and over again while literally just watching another screen. I don't remember exactly how long this took, but I do remember it took at least 34 hours, because I watched all of Tuaru in that time while doing it. Personally, I think the worst thing about this trophy is just how boring it is. Once you get the timing down, you don't even need to look at your screen, and yes, I know technically you could get this eventually just by playing the game naturally, but no, I don't think there's actually enough content to do that. Also, you know, Trophy Hunter's pretty efficient, so yeah, 34-hour grind over a 100-hour grind, thank you very much. Moving on. Ah, the Forgotten Game. Very similar to Lost Song gameplay wise, so you'd probably expect the trophies to be just as easy. Yeah, me too, that's what I thought. I was wrong. The main reason for this and the trophy that I've chosen as the hardest is 100 Holder. which requires you to have 100 of the in-game titles earned by various things, such as getting each character to level 1000, or hitting a certain combo. There are also more specialized ones, such as spending 10 hours on a motorcycle, which you're just not going to do. Now, the one saving grace is that you don't need to do every single title. Apparently there are 152 now in the game, but I am not sure, some of them might have been added post-launch and also post me getting the plat, which means my job was harder, if that's true. Not every one of these titles is an impossible grind, but a lot of them are going to take you several hours just to get one. I remember specifically asking my friend just to let me kill him in the multiplayer over and over again for a few hours just to get the multiplayer titles to reduce the grind. One thing I do like about this trophy is that a lot of the titles force you to play as specific characters, so you get to try out a lot of different playstyles, and I quite like that, it's quite nice. Kinda wish they had reduced the amount though, so it wasn't a crazy grind, but one thing this video will teach you is that these games love being grindy, and on that note... Maybe the best game? It definitely would be if the story was paced a lot better. Trophy-wise, the main game isn't actually that bad at all, really. There's your standard max out all weapon types and affinity, but that really isn't difficult, and in fact, I'm pretty sure since I've done it, it's been made a lot easier with updates and DLC and whatnot. Speaking of DLC, that's where we're going to have the look for the hardest trophy. I've gone for Hardcore Gunner, which requires you to beat all 12 hardcore co-op quests. Now, the first 8 aren't too bad if you're going to get close to max level. You need to get to level 270 for another trophy anyway, so really not too bad. But the final 4 are level 275, and I remember dying a lot and very, very quickly. Now, the obvious caveat to this is that they can be co-opted. I'm pretty sure what I did is got lucky and got in games with people that are much stronger and had better builds and just generally knew what they were doing better than me and got carried. I don't know how well that tactic would work nowadays, as I don't imagine this game is as active as it once was. Overall though, I would say that this is one of the easier games, and honestly probably the most fun to plat as well. You know what, I take back what I said earlier, because I remember there being a lot less grinding, at least in the main game anyway. Even the hardest trophy didn't take that long when compared to the other games. It's a shame they never did a follow-up game for this. Instead we got... Now, full disclosure, this is the only trophy on this list that I don't have. It's from the second DLC, called Blossoming Feverfew. It requires you to get every one of the endings in that DLC. Now, this sounds really simple, but unless you actually keep your gear upgraded as well as level yourself up throughout the game's lifespan, you won't stand a chance. Now, personally, I don't like grinding for the sake of grinding. I'll do the story, I'll get the trophies, but I'm not going to grind after that for no reason. There's loads of other games I could be playing instead. So basically how it works is you can only get the main ending on your first playthrough, and honestly, if you just needed to replay to get the other endings, this trophy would not be an issue at all. But for some reason, the developers thought it'd be really fun to massively increase the enemies' levels far above the level cap, basically forcing you to have a really strong endgame build to get the other endings. To make matters even worse, for one of the endings you play as Berkuli and not Kirito, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say most people who even did have strong builds only had one for Kirito. So that's even more time you're going to spend farming for weapons and upgrades. Now, I do plan on doing this eventually, but the grind I have to do is so daunting that, you know what, I'm not in any rush. I'll wait a minute. The most recent SAO game has got its fair share of problems, but the most glaring in my eyes is the ridiculousness of the enemy health bars. This was likely done just to try and mask how short the game actually is and try and artificially lengthen the game time. As such, the hardest trophy is at the top, which requires you to unlock every skill in the game. Now once again, this sounds incredibly simple, and really, it is quite simple. It just takes bloody ages. This is because all the skills listed includes the locked ultimate skills for each weapon type. To unlock these, you need special seals you get from hunting quests. The most you can get at once is 3 of a single weapon. There are 13 weapon types. This means you need to do a minimum of 1,300 hunting quests. Combine that with the fact that the enemies have exactly too much health, and you have a recipe for a long, boring time as you're just doing the same quests over and over again. My strategy was to jump in multiplayer and hope I got paired with someone OP who can help me do the quest really quick. Which is all well and good in this early launch window-ish area, but god, I can't imagine trying to do this in a few years. Now, it's entirely possible that once the DLC comes out, they might add an easier way to get weapon seals, in which case, no, this trophy would not be the hardest in the game. But as of right now, me writing this, it is by far the hardest, most time-consuming, and honestly just least fun trophy in the game, and it takes like 100 hours, which is really a shame. And that is all of them, unless they announce a new game or port IF to console, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Thank you for watching. If you've done any of these, let me know in the comments. If you think I'm wrong about any of these being the hardest, let me know that too. That's always cool. Just be cool about it. Don't, like, threaten me or anything. That's a bit harsh. Once again, subscribe and like and all that jazz. I like making the things glow. I hope they still do it. Otherwise, I'm just talking really, really slowly and quietly for no reason. I'll see you next time, and remember, hunt them trophies.